So, you want to play Mimic. Since I'm working on a longer video right now and I need something so the algorithm doesn't forget about me, I'll be giving you some tips, tricks, and general guide for if you're considering buying the Mimic, or if you're just interested in getting better at him. Also, this is my first monster tutorial, and it should also hopefully be my first video with chapters. I'll see that, but it should allow you to skip to wherever you need for your information. Either way, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm. Or don't, I'm not your dad. So, starting off with stats and how M1s work. For Mimic, he starts with the lowest M1 damage in the game at 15 per hit. However, with every kill he gets plus 4 to his damage, capping out at 30, so it just goes 15, 19, 23, 27, then 30, so you only got plus 3 on the last, but that's fine. We'll talk about this more in passes, as M1s are pretty reliant on those. Otherwise, he has 21 sprint speed, which is the same as Fuwadi, if you want a reference point, which means he's just barely slower than a survivor. He also has 100 stamina, drains pretty manageable, and he regens it very quickly. I feel like it's best to talk about weaknesses next, so let's just do that. The Mimic's footsteps are really loud naturally. The Mimic is naturally slower than a player. At the beginning of a game, he does not do very much damage. His abilities are not instant to use in the same way that, like, MX or Forest Kings are. Both of them have noticeable wind-up times and pretty long cooldowns, especially considering how much he relies on them. And he has a shorter distance of sight than any other monster. So, what does the Mimic do to make up for these weaknesses and end up as, in my opinion, the third best monster in the game? Well, we have to look at his passive. Mimic has a very powerful passive. It's to partially make up for his low damage. He gets bonus damage when a survivor is alone. This encourages you hunting down one survivor by themselves and getting them. So you have, your higher damage for later fights where you might not have the survivor be alone. A lot of the times you have grouped up people at the end. You want that higher damage so you can deal with those easier. The buff adds plus 20 damage to your M1s, allowing you to 2-tap a normal player when you're at max damage, which is very strong. In exchange, however, he does have his decreased sight. He sees maps darker than every monster, having vision technically in the middle ground, but he's still obviously brighter than the survivor. The rest of his passive is just the whole getting stronger with kills thing, though. Abilities, let's get into those. So starting with his main claim to fame, Elder Ascension. Elder Ascension avoids a lot of his weaknesses and makes him significantly faster. My estimate around Nilo's speed, I'm not 100% sure on that, I'd have to look into that more. On top of this, it also makes him nearly invisible. In exchange, the ability makes him stand still for a second or two, and he screams pretty loudly when it's used, so people generally know when it's happening. If a player has a flashlight as well, it's not too hard to see him coming. This has a very long cooldown of 30 seconds, and the ability ends after the timer goes off or you attack. His other ability is Animalistic Instincts. It gets rid of his bad sight and damage weaknesses, so combined they get rid of all of his weaknesses effectively. In a range of 58 studs around him, he highlights all players, and if he hits one of them while they're highlighted, he applies the bleed debuff. He moves very slowly when he activates the ability for a couple seconds, and he makes a sniffing sound during that process. The ability has a 16-second cooldown and ends after about 10 seconds. Notably, since both of his abilities are modes, as said, you can activate both of them and temporarily become the best monster in the game without really any weaknesses. Maybe range, but, only Forest King and Whist have any form of range, really, so that's not too bad of a weakness. And here's just some useful tidbits to end it off. So the Mimic on Double Trouble is the worst monster in the game. Despite being really good solo, he relies on getting kills and snowballing. He's a snowball character, right? You get stronger after every kill. If you run him on Double Trouble, you're either stealing kills, which is kind of just rude considering you need kills to level up, or you just don't get stronger, in which case you might as well just run Nilo, and being worse than Nilo isn't great. If you go into Double Trouble, maybe just use someone else. Also, if someone is going to knock you away with the Doomfist, and you have your Animalistic Instincts available, it will make you immune to knockback for some reason, plus it's just a free Animalistic. So, if you can just pop that and void that hit, that's a really useful thing to know and be able to do. Try to avoid flashlight beams when you're in Elder Ascension as well, it'll just help you sneak up on people. Also notably, bleed as an effect does damage over time, but it does more damage when someone is sprinting. So if you can get them to just be running away from you, that will help you get kills with that. Speaking of bleed, if you can get a kill with that, That means you don't have to go through your whole kill animation, which is useful from a timing perspective. So, lastly, just go crazy with the little flesh guy. If I said anything that has been useful, or there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments below. But with that said, have a good day, and I'll see you next week.